Yo, it's that time. Get ready to unwind with Jillian on the mic. The best you'll find. Pop that cork. Let's start to chat on the Polywine podcast, where it's all that. Join the crew as we dive into the scene. Current events heated, know what I mean? Jillian sitting pretty while pouring the wine. Hot topics bubbling, everything aligns. From politics to the latest in fame. Reality TV, it's never the same. Grab your glass, let's raise it high. In the world of crazy, we're never.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on Polywine, where we like to take a deep dive into stories pulled from the media and have a fun time while breaking it down. I'm Jillian, and let's get into it. Well, on the show, we spend a lot of time talking about politics, and recently the economy has been a major part of that conversation, and interest rates and how will that affect mortgages and first-time home buyers. Well, today our guest, Phil Ganz, an expert in his field at mortgages, is here to break it down and cut through the confusion for all of us. So please welcome our guest today, Phil Ganz of Next Wave Mortgage. Well, hello everyone, and I just wanted to welcome our special guest today here, Phil Ganz. How are you today?
I'm doing amazing.
And you are the president of Next Wave Mortgage. And I thought this was a great time to have you here because every week on the show, we have a large segment, of course, to politics. And that always has a large segment to the economy. So this is a great time to have you here because when we talk about economy, we talk about interest rates, we talk about how it affects mortgage. So to have your expertise here is a great bonus. So, but first, I want to get a little bit into your background. And I was doing a little research on you, and I just heard that you just had a baby.
Yes, baby Madison, 8 months on Sunday.
Oh, congratulations. That is wonderful. It sounds like you and your wife really went through quite a process. So to come out on the other side is really wonderful. So congratulations to the both of you.
Especially later in life, first time father at 48, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I'm on the other end of the spectrum there. My kids are getting a little bit older. I've got one. My oldest has got 1 foot out the door almost, and I would kind of do anything to turn back time a little bit. So enjoy it while you can, for sure.
How old are your kids?
My oldest is 16, almost 17, turning 55. It feels like he is way beyond his years, and my daughter's 13.
Oh. That's interesting. You got teenagers, right?
Teenagers. Yes, I am in the thick of it.
I can only imagine.
Yes. Don't worry. Your day will come soon enough.
Yes. It goes by quick, I hear, right?
It does. So, and you are originally from Boston, correct?
Correct.
So
What
I guess
part?
I have to ask you, are you a Patriots or Red Sox fan or Bruins?
Yeah, that's always a great question. When I was in Boston, I was the biggest fan.
Okay.
Right? But because it's like Florida is so nice and the outdoors and the beach, right? The cold weather and the miserableness of the whole thing led you to be inside more, right? And so, yeah, I'm a huge Patriots fan and Celtics and, I like all the sports. But, I'm not as big of a fan as I once was, just because, I like outdoors. Life, it's more sunny in Florida here, right?
Oh yeah, and plus it's got to be nicer to watch those games in the nice warmth of Florida. When you see it snowing on the field, you're like, it's pretty nice here.
Well, you know
balmy
what it is in
Florida
Boston,
weather.
It's easier to do things indoors. So sports lends a hand. Because it eats up the time. It's like Netflix, a million shows. And for this, Florida, this is I didn't understand why kind of sports or professional sports really historically haven't been as popular.
Right.
And that's because, they're out doing other things, you know?
Yeah, I do miss Florida. I was in Florida briefly for a while many years ago in the Panhandle, Panama City area.
Oh my God, that's like spring break that didn't end for you.
Pretty much, yeah. It was in the heydays, Club La Vila, those kind of days. It was pretty much insanity, but fun. Very fun.
That is amazing,
Yeah,
right?
but it was great for a brief period of time, but you stayed. So what made you make the leap from New England to Florida? Because that is quite a leap. So what made you make that jump?
I was at actually the peak of what I would tell you my earnings
Okay.
career, right? The top. And
It's a big jump at that time.
And I would just tell you, just because sometimes when you're at the peak, I mean, I think it was also the most miserable. And that's just the reality. I wasn't really like happy. And I didn't want to have regrets when I was like older, right?
Yeah.
Because I think the first time you achieve something, you're like, oh, this is great. But then the second time, I'm like, there got to be more to life than this, than to mortgages and to just work for someone else.
Yeah.
And kind of be contained creatively, right? So, you got to take big risks. And I definitely took it. And look, it wasn't really well planned out. I got to be like honest with you.
Yeah.
But, it was, I think
your way.
What?
You said you find your way.
You find your way, but it wasn't like exactly like the way I thought, right? Like I moved, I think it was like November of 2021, right?
Okay. Oh, during COVID.
Yeah, like right after. Yeah,
Oh.
it was that COVID. Yeah, so I guess it was.
Yes.
It was COVID when I was still there, because it's
Okay.
funny because being in Boston, I'm not sure COVID's ended. But being in Florida, the minute I came, it was over. So it was like a weird experience.
Right. I was going to say, with you were part of the lot. There was a mass exodus from a lot of those cities from up north, from like New York and Boston, that went down to Florida during kind of COVID. They made the transition.
Yeah. And so I was there, and, when I moved, that was November of 21. By February of 22, I'll just show you how things don't always work. My wife's birthday, ex-wife's birthday at the time was, it was 2 days before Valentine's Day. So you say, hey, what do you want? And, she's like, I want a divorce. So I wasn't off to like a good start, right? She didn't want to move. Sometimes people say they want to move.
Right.
So, it didn't, look, things don't always work out initially, but
right.
And then the business there, I was at one company and was there many years. They're a great company, but I decided to shift to another company for opportunity, and then that company didn't work because it was more of I worked like retail for mortgages, right?
Okay.
For people that don't know what retail is kind of like the consumer facing for the company itself. Wholesale is kind of like behind the scenes. And you see this, like Expedia would be wholesale, booking on Marriott.com would be retail, right?
Okay.
And so we eventually launched Next Wave Mortgage. And that, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do before I launched it, but I'm happy we did, right? And that was it was a big adventure. We didn't get off to a good start, but here we are. And we hit our record last month, and we've doubled our company in the last 90 days. So I feel like we finally hit our stride, which is phenomenal.
Yes. You found your footing. Well, that's wonderful. Congratulations.
Oh man, thank you so much.
Yeah. So please break it down. And when we talk about the economy, first-time homeowners, right? Since this is your area of expertise, we always hear about mortgage rates, interest rates. It's sometimes for first-time homeowners, sometimes that dreams seems a little bit more unobtainable because it's so expensive buying a first-time home. What are some of the key rules for mortgages going into it? What are some of your advice that you can give to our viewers, first-time homeowners, people that are just thinking about getting into home ownership? What is some advice that you could give us?
Boy, that's actually such a great question.
And it's a little layered, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is a little layered. But remember, the United States is basically 50 different countries. And only every once in a while can we cheer for Team USA in hockey and play Freebird. But, and I say that is I would give different advice depending of what part of the country you're from. I'll give you an example. If you're buying, say, in the Midwest or South, SEC or Big Ten, right? You're only solving for down payment assistance. Homes are more affordable. So the average home is in Florida is $374. Well, the average home, say in Massachusetts, is near $700,000, right? So you're solving for two issues there: down payment assistance and monthly payment assistance. We're solving, and so it's much more complicated in certain areas, right? So for the South and the Midwest, look, it's actually pretty easy to buy. And I don't think people realize how easy it is to buy. You just need to take advantage of the down payment assistance programs. Because whether the rate's 6, 7, or 8, you're going to qualify. And while it may not be like the perfect mortgage, you can start home ownership. In comparison, right? And sometimes it's hard to like realize things if you can't compare it, right? You need contrast, right? In New England, or especially Massachusetts or California, even if the government does offer assistance, right? You can't afford the payment. Because even if the rate is, say, 6% or say 5%, 5 times 7 is 3,500 plus.
Right.
Your starter home is $5,000 a month. And you're like, oh my God, that's
right.
And if you look at that, 5 times 12 months is 60,000. So just to pay your mortgage, you need to save 60,000 in a year. You're making $150,000-$200,000,
right,
to be able to afford a home. And it's the same thing in California. In fact, in California, all you have to know is the name of their down payment assistance program. They call it California Dream or Cal Dream, something like this, right?
Okay.
And let me walk you through of how ridiculous this program is.
Right.
So the government, this is a true story. They give you 20% to buy a home, roughly 20%, which you pay back.
Seems like a nice incentive.
It is. So you got to pay it back when you sell. That's fine, right? Just pay it back when you sell. But the other kicker is they give you the 20%, which is an incredible amount of money. Then they also say, well, we want to they do something called shared appreciation. I don't like this name, and I'll tell you why. So they want some of the upside. So you're like, well, what do you mean? No, they want 20% of the gain on the sale. So say you bought a home. In most families, your home will be your biggest investment. So you buy a home for, say, $700,000. You're able to do this program, but we'll just say $700,000. And then, 10 years goes by and your house is worth $1.5 million. They want 20%. So not only are you paying back the $200,000, they also want 20% on the gain.
Oh, wow.
So they want 20% on the other $700,000. You're like, no way. Yeah, because remember, you paid 100% of the taxes. You did all the home improvements.
Right.
And is it better than renting? I'm sure. But when you go to like a socialistic kind of like narrative, right? And in comparison, shared appreciation. And I'm going to give you an example. The state of Maine has made it illegal for mortgage companies to offer shared appreciation. And if you actually listen to some of these clips, you say, why? And they're not wrong. Because they say, well, you're taking all the upside. And the mortgage companies that want to do this are kind of like scammers. They call them very bad names, right? The political theatrics. But at the same time, what they're saying about the companies that were offering that, and the companies were saying, well, look, sometimes it's the only path forward and it's better than renting. So both sides can kind of be true, right?
Sure.
I mean, literally, that's California's game plan, is a socialistic plan because the homes have gone up so much in value. And one reason why homes go up in value, right, isn't because and I know California has good weather, whatever, but it's because it's it's very expensive when you raise all these taxes. Businesses have to, make a profit to
Mm-hmm.
operate, right? They don't want to lose money, right? So you have to raise prices if you want to
Right.
build a home, right? If it takes 3 years or 2 years, my uncle's building a home in Brentwood, California,
Mm-hmm.
and it's taking 3 years.
Regulations.
He's 80 years old. I don't know why he waited to 80 to buy his dream house. But the fact is
Keep
that
on dreaming.
yeah, it
Right.
takes so long that say you want to the biggest builders in the United States. Let's talk about them. D.R. Horton,
Okay.
Pulte,
Okay.
Taylor Morrison that Warren Buffett just bought into.
Oh, okay.
You know, they can build a home. They can build 100 homes in Florida, 6 months. And what I told someone was one of the GC people when I was the first person to buy in my community. So
Mm-hmm.
I asked the GC guy, was running the whole thing for D.R. Horton. He was up for Miami, and I bought north of Miami in a town called Jensen Beach. I just tell people Stewart because no one knows Jensen is.
Okay.
But I said to him, well, what's the world record? The D.R. Horton world record of
Right.
how fast you can build a home. And he's like, well, I'm not supposed to tell you. He's like, but we had a competition once. I'm like, okay. How
Yeah,
fast?
yeah. I want to hear these numbers. Yeah.
He's like, Phil, I built it in under 30 days.
He built
I'm
a
like, the
home
concrete
in
can't
under
even
30 days.
stack.
I don't know how comfortable I'd feel about that home.
I know, but the fact is that I'm not sure if the house is safe. I'm sure it was. And
Right, right.
they did it once to see how fast these guys could really go.
Right.
But if you want to know how fast a neighborhood could really go up when the government says just build,
Right.
really quick. I mean, it solves the affordability issues when you can build new construction. By the way, I lose a lot as an owner of a mortgage company. I always lose deals to to them, and it's not because they don't.
New
It's
developments.
just the financing companies act like a car dealership in the sense of they'll offer 0%. Right? They
Right.
build it into the price of the car. Now they don't offer 0%. Say the market rate is 6. They'll
Right.
offer 4.99 or 3.99, and they build it into the price to make the payment more affordable because typically when you go from renting to owning, the price increase from a renter to an owner is 30%. So if you could reduce that to 10% or 0%, or hell, in some cases, less than that, then you're just going to sign people up.
Yeah.
And these builders are so profitable. Not only do they lose money on their interest rates, they actually offer some of the realtors the biggest concessions, like the biggest builders. They'll offer, and I've seen this in, say, Jacksonville, Florida,
Mm-hmm.
North Florida, 6% real estate commissions. 8%.
Oh my gosh.
Last year they were offering. You're like, what do you mean? Yeah, they don't care because they can build homes so fast. And what for people don't understand that are not in Florida or Texas or some of these states that are restrictive, they create these HOA communities so they can get around the city bylaws of how much acreage you need.
Right.
So
Right.
they can build 100 homes much closer together. Does the
Yes.
of land? Sure. It's like a tenth
Mm-hmm.
of an acre. But you get a brand new home out of the box in Florida. I bought mine, it was, right around 500,000. You can
Right.
get a brand new home for in some parts of our 300, 275.
Yeah.
People can't even buy a boat for 270, 5. I mean, it's so crazy how
Right.
inexpensive because the biggest factor in cost isn't labor, it's time. And people don't realize that. They say it's labor. Okay, theoretically it is, but it's
Right.
really time because if it takes 3 years or 5 years or forever to not knowing that, then people don't want the value of time is, well, I think there was this movie, the only thing better than the only thing better was it than fast is free, right?
Right.
The only thing better than free is fast. I got to
Right.
reverse. That's exactly what it is. So you need speed. There's a value to time.
Which is a
And
problem
so
in
if you can get
California.
and people are like, oh, how is it? The reality is that you get a brand new, beautiful home. Is it perfect? No.
Right.
Like the walls won't be like smooth, so you got to put up the special glue.
Right.
Put up your wallpaper. Like, look, if you look behind me, you see that. But if you look to the right-hand side, it's like because we ran out of the glue, and it's a long story. But
Right.
you get a brand new, beautiful house. In fact, there's something what I
turnkey.
call Florida-itis. And you're like, what
Right.
this is? So my wife was born in Florida.
Okay.
And looking for a home from someone in Florida versus Boston is completely different.
Oh,
And
I
you go, what's
bet.
the difference?
Right.
So if you're looking in Boston, anything before 1860 is considered new.
Right.
Do you know my wife, when we were looking at homes, she was like, if it's older than 6 years old, I'm not in. I'm like, what do
Right.
you mean? She's like, it's old. Like a
Yeah.
car. Like their mentality is like a car.
I have a family member who says 10 years is her limit. If it's
10
older
years,
than
like
10 years,
6.
that's where there's issues. I'm like,
So it's incredible. But all these
Right.
Florida people are like this. They treat it like there's no difference in their mind.
right. Yeah.
So because it's the branding. Because the new construction people have done a really great job of branding, it's been amazing. It's like, Santa Claus used to be green. But it wasn't until I think it was 1904 when Coca-Cola, or 1904, no, 1922,
Yeah.
that Coca-Cola made Santa Claus red to match the Coke can. Right? It's the same
Iconic.
thing.
Yeah.
It's like people are like, really? Yeah, like literally Coke changed the color of Santa Claus. I mean, if that's not marketing for you.
Yeah. At its finest.
And so that's the reason they think it's that. So I would tell people you have to know what issue that you're solving for. Right? And I think this is a big thing, but I wouldn't wait. I
Right.
do feel like this for a lot of young people. They're not willing to make the sacrifice. They're not willing to
Right.
go buy a home. And I find this is a big issue for a lot of young people is that they're just unwilling to have any compromise. For them, if you ask, I don't know, someone 24, they want to have a good time. I don't know if this is Instagram-itis or TikTok-itis, but the biggest thing, a young person in this generation is not the young person of my generation.
Right.
I feel myself as like a young old person.
Mm-hmm.
They just
I
don't,
feel you. Right.
They don't want to do it.
Right.
Saving is not their thing.
Right.
There's no financial literacy for these people.
Yeah.
Right? The issue is that schools now, parents rely on schools to be the educators. The issue of that is that financial literacy really needs to be taught by the parents.
So true. That's
And
not
you're
taught
like,
in school.
What
Right.
age should we be teaching?
Right.
It's like, I don't know, like month 1, day 1, day 0. Like if you're already reading these books of Humpty Dumpty, you might as well. This is my wife reads. She reads like all these financial books and
Yeah.
whatever books. The baby Madison doesn't know any of this at 8
Right.
months, right?
Maybe she does know the national interest rate right now. You never know.
might.
It could sleep in slowly.
So what I would say is
Right.
that you have to be willing to make a sacrifice because the government can only do so much.
Right.
And the perception is the government should always do more.
Right.
And I would say, the government shouldn't do more. It's already doing enough. Because if you want the government to do more,
Interesting.
you just got more government. You don't have solved all the solutions. We've seen more government.
Right.
The
Right.
states with the most government, you look at the state of New York, right? They pay the most per kid, right? This is true. $45,000 per kid for public school, right?
Oh, wow.
And these kids aren't doing well. In fact, here's a stat for your audience. Homeschooled kids outperform the fanciest private schools 12 to 18% on
Interesting.
standardized tests. So what
Okay.
does that mean? That means that they usually probably have better parents that care more. Caring parents have their kids produce more. I know people will say, well, how about sports? I'm like, haven't you seen the Olympics or soccer?
Right.
Like these kids are like starting at like 3,
Yeah.
right? So I would say this, that like it's really about being better parents. And I think there has to be more of a shift towards that. I think a lot of kids are starting later in life trying to figure
Yeah.
it out. And
It's
they
so
keep on
sad.
making bad financial decisions. I look at their bank statements. I review it. They're buying coffee, and you say coffee $10 a day times, 365 days, and say that's $2,000 a year in nonsense drinks, right?
Right.
Times that by 10 years, not even reinvesting, $20,000-$30,000 of nonsense
Right.
compounded at young age. So if you say, well, how come at 18 to 28, well, 28-year-old, he was unable to save? A lot of people just have bad habits,
Right.
right? And
You should start a new app. A
yeah,
financial app, I'm
but
telling you.
no one would sign up because people don't want sacrifice. People don't
That's
want to be forced
yeah.
to do certain things and
They want to be
behave.
told
And
what not to do.
they don't want to be told. They want to be
That's right.
sold the dream, right?
Yeah.
And I will tell you this, what I have seen is the successful families,
Mhm.
because I've been doing this long enough, or I've been helping out many of the same families,
Right.
is that the successful families, they started at a very young age with these kids. And I think it's the families that don't have much, right? And I get it that, they rely on the government to wave this magic wand, right? In fact, I saw there was this credit card company that came out with this wand to pay with the credit card. I forget what it was, but it was it was like a commercial because they think it's so cool that you can have a wand and pay. Like, wow.
Yeah.
But
To wash
no
away
one,
those debts.
yeah, but no one has a want to save. No one
Right.
has a want to sacrifice, right?
It's not
And,
realistic, right?
and I think this is the issue. So while there's what's the time, I would tell anyone if you can buy, then let's buy today because
Right.
over time it's going to just really go up. The best money is what you can't touch. If you live in an unfortunate area, and I don't say unfortunate, I call it a high cost area, one of the most expensive areas in the world. So say you're born in an expensive area in the world. Well, what can you do? Well, maybe you can get a good job there and work remotely. But if you want to stay in that area, right, home ownership may not be a possibility for you.
Right.
This is just being realistic. You can't buy a home. So I'm not going to tell you can buy a home in New York City unless you're going to be a professional baseball player or something crazy or
Right.
something great. Your family's going to either have to help you or you're going to have to move out. Like, that's why they call it in like the suburbs,
Right.
right?
Do
And
you want a yard or do you want a window box garden?
and I would
Right.
tell people you got to be willing to make. I was willing to pay the price. What was that price like? For you? Well, okay. Price number 1 was divorce. Price number 2 is how to switch companies twice. Look at business. Elon Musk could have stayed at PayPal.
Yeah.
Right? He wanted to do his own thing. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people. You look at Google, all the companies they started, like LinkedIn, Snapchat. There's like 500 companies. In fact,
Yeah.
I would probably tell you like 5% of all great tech companies now had some employee of Google as one of their founders. Right?
Oh,
Like
sure.
they can't keep all their people. So really smart people are willing to relocate. They're willing to bet on themselves. In fact,
Mhm.
there's certain cultures that are willing to relocate,
Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
because they're willing to relocate, they actually have a higher chance of making more money because they can chase the jobs. And you got to say that, if you say you're a pro athlete, do you want to
Yeah.
be the backup forever or do you want to take a chance, right? Jimmy,
Right.
Look at Jimmy Garoppolo when he was behind Tom Brady. Look, he wasn't Tom Brady, but he was good enough to be an NFL quarterback, right?
Sure.
And you see this a lot in sports, and you see this a lot in business, where successful people ended up starting other really great companies. In fact, that's the hardest thing of starting a really good company is retention, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's a really hard thing. In fact, when companies really blow up, if you saw the movie, the show Blackberry, that's how they got in trouble. They were backdating stock options, right?
Oh, I didn't see that one. I'm going to
help
look that
recruit
up.
people and to retain people.
Okay,
right? So
right.
they'd be in the money. They'd go to someone and say, look, I know the stock is $100 today, but 3 years ago, it wasn't. So why don't you just sign here? Say you're here 3 years ago, whatever they were doing, right?
Mhm.
It's really hard, right? Because it's really an accumulation of talent, right? And I think that was also one great thing of watching the Steve Jobs documentary was how he accumulated a lot of great talent along the
Right.
way. I mean, he was great at many things. One was software design, right? I would say that's his core competency. But the other thing I would say was he was really great at evaluating and collecting talent.
And he
Apple
was well respected
computers,
too, so it does go
it
both ways.
did.
Yeah.
It really did. Apple had no shortage. In fact, you could make the argument he was so good at collecting talent, his replacement is actually better than he is. You could make the argument Tim Cook over
Make
the
that
last.
argument. Yeah. I don't know if he's as
I'm
loved.
not saying you would accept it, but
Right,
I'm saying
right.
I would say you could make the argument how
Sure.
good of a job Tim Cook has done.
Sure, yes.
You know, that this guy, and they've lost to other people, but they've never lost their DNA. And that's what makes Apple a great company and not a good company. A great company's DNA can just recycle itself with the people. A good company eventually will die because the one owner went away.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. That's why Apple and some of these companies, even Microsoft, you say, well, what's in their DNA, right? That, you know, the way that they're constructed is in a way that these guys only win, right? Like they're going to win for a long time. I don't see them slowing down, because you got to build and collect talent and then keep it growing. And while BlackBerry had the right ideas, they didn't fully execute on everything, right? And that was the ultimate, I think, where BlackBerry went wrong was personnel decisions. And people don't see it now. And I mean, and also they faced Steve Jobs. That was the other thing.
Right. I was going to say it was a big leap in technology.
Combination it was a twofold combination, but even then, the guy at BlackBerry wasn't one of the main owners could have bought into Pittsburgh's, Penguins, and he messed up that deal. And then, that they could have bought him for $100 million from Mario Lemieux is now worth over $1 billion. I know. And, so look, did they do fine? Sure. But where I would probably place them is that they were really talented and they were at the right place at the right time, but they didn't have the skill set to build a legacy company.
Yeah.
And that's what I would say, that I've seen.
But, with those large companies, and going back to Musk, as he's grown and evolved, they've also made a large leap. Like they left California because a lot of the restrictions that they had with their companies and taxes and stuff like that, and they moved to Texas. So, I mean, they're moving.
They are. And you're actually seeing this right now. The Chicago Bears are going to Indiana. I mean, who would have thought? And I don't know if you know this. It's not official yet.
What is that?
Yeah, so it took 3 years. Here's what happened. I'll give you a quick recap for your audience. 3 years,
Okay.
Chicago audience. They got this mayor, Brandon Johnson, right? And it's not his fault completely, right? But he couldn't get a deal done. I really don't think anyone could have gotten a deal done there, but that's here nor there. He couldn't get a deal done.
Okay.
And then it goes to the governor Pritzker, and I think he wanted to get a deal done, and they were going to put, the McCaskey family owned a lot of land nearby outside of Chicago, and they could have done a big development there for many years. It would have been a great deal, and they would have had to get some tax benefits and all these things, right?
Sure.
Tax benefits, but they couldn't. They get in their own way. This is the big thing.
Regulation.
Right? And it really shouldn't, because it's like, it's it's a one-sided party there, right? It's Democrats running versus the Democrats, right? You would think it would actually be easier there. But sometimes it actually makes things more difficult. And I'll tell you why. You want to have honest conversations. If not, you start taking these, because to win in politics, what happens is you have to create alignment, right, with your audience, right? And then what you do is you have to complete contrast. You can't be the same. You have to be completely opposite, right?
Mm-hmm.
And who's done the best at this recently? I would probably tell you Mondani and Spencer Pratt, right? And I'm just saying
it hasn't worked out so well for Spence.
It didn't. But
good momentum.
But here's what I would say to this is people say it didn't. I would say he learned a lot of people would say initially this was a terrible result. You didn't win and you lost. But sometimes in the biggest losses, there's wins. And here's the underlying wins for Spencer Pratt, right? Economically, let's start with this. He's now probably set for life. Everyone knows who he is.
Yeah.
He rebuilt himself.
Yes.
He developed a following. He came off as independent, smart, funny, right?
He reached another generation for sure.
You know, and the thing is, he's a young guy. You don't always win your first time. A lot of people have lost, right? A lot of people have started a certain way, right? And I think you see this with Spencer. He didn't want anyone to really claim him for yourself. Now, I see a lot of Republicans said he claimed him for himself, but this isn't necessarily like the right way to view it. And I'm going to tell you the reason why, right? Because I really believe he was truly independent, and what sabotaged it is that too many people that were extreme right wing kind of ruined it for him at the end.
Yeah, and this he tried to backpedal quickly.
Yeah, they ruined it for Spencer Pratt. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like if he was trying to do his best. He didn't want to alienate people.
Right.
But I really tell you this. In fact,
and in the final leg of the race, the worst time. You know, right at the end.
They ruined it for him. They ruined it for him, and that's why he didn't win. In fact, if you look at the last, and I forget what his name was, the last Republican mayor, right, of LA. I forget the name, but I can actually look it up. In fact, I'll look it up for you. Last
I can see his face.
LA mayor of LA. Hold on one second as this comes up, because I was actually just on Gemini just trying to pull this up. That was let's see, the last that was a Republican, was basically this guy, and he was really a Democrat that ran as a Republican, and that was Richard Riordan.
Okay.
And I'll tell you the story. So there was no one that was more, let's say, pro rights, right? He was extremely for like people's rights, gays, transgender, all of this, right? He was extremely liberal, people's rights. It was great. He was really for that, but he was just like financially conservative. And that's great. It was like, so he kind of fit the mold, right? Richard Riordan. And here's how I know why, of what his DNA was. Is because when he ran, and he was extremely competent. So he was extremely competent. He knew the system, of how to work the system. He was completely honest. And in fact, he never changed his DNA when it would have benefited him. Because when he actually ran for governor of California, he lost in Republican primaries. He said, well, why would someone like this? Because the Republicans actually attacked him. And they said, well, he's not really a Republican, right? For whatever this was. And he barely lost. And he didn't change who he was. That's how you knew who he was. I think LA knew, and he did a great job. If you look back at history, they'd say Richard Riordan was actually a brilliant guy. In fact, when Arnold Schwarzenegger became governor, right?
You knew
who was Arnold Schwarzenegger? Let's talk about this. He married a Kennedy, right?
Right.
And he married a Kennedy. And he was extremely
talk about a story,
right? He was extremely liberal, right? It's fine, right? Like he was just trying to like manage as an independent. In fact, he realized that he had to be an independent to win. Because I think you have to be in California. One of the first things he did.
He's a little conservative too.
Yeah, he is a little bit. But he put Richard Riordan in, I think, as his Department of either Education or Transportation, some really high position, because he trusted him.
Yeah.
And I think that's what matters.
Right.
And I think as they're trying to run, and Spencer Pratt will try to run again, right, is what I would say to him is just keep going with who you are. But unfortunately, you know what, is that if he does try to run for governor, right, the first thing that would happen in a Republican primary is they would say, Spencer, you're not conservative enough. I think he did a great job.
Yeah.
What really happened was he just didn't have enough, he didn't have enough time. I think he kind of ran out of time. He did like as good as he could have done.
Yeah.
And I think it's a thing to be proud of who he was and what he did.
Right.
I think he would have done a lot. I don't think he would have beaten, Karen Bass. I think inevitably that would have been a loss. I do think he has a bright future ahead. Now, that doesn't mean that he won't get more involved, because I do think, he will get more involved either at the state level. Someone will say, hey, he's a smart guy, right? Do I want to reach across the aisles? And maybe Karen Bass did that, or maybe, the next person, because Gavin Newsom will be running for president, right?
Right.
So maybe they could say, hey, maybe the next person that runs, we could put Spencer Pratt in, or maybe Spencer Pratt will run.
Well, he ran on something.
Yeah,
he ran on something that was, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. He ran on something that really was so strong and resonated with so many people in the areas that, I had a house, it was burnt down in the fires, and because of regulation and restrictions and just whatever you want to call it, incompetency that people in the office is, I can't get things going to rebuild my home. And that is, and I have some friends out in the that area, and that is their complaint. I can't build. I want to rebuild. I've had issues with insurance. I've had issues with all these regulations. I just want to start rebuilding and move forward with my life, and I can't. And that's why I'm leaving.
Well, see, the reason why Ford starts with F for Florida, right? And that's what I would say, forward to Florida, because the reality is that the value of time, they intentionally delay. See, a lot of times, and by the way, no one's more pro-environment than me. I moved to Key Largo, Florida. So for the whole audience, I'm one of these people that likes animals more than people.
Right.
And I love the environment.
Right.
When I saw these illegal people doing bad things in Florida for fishing and they got in trouble, I loved it. I didn't care. But what I would say is a lot of people, use the environment as a way to make themselves wealthy. And by delaying and causing an intentional delay, just like in sports, how you can do a delay of game, or you can use your timeouts for your advantage. People do this in politics because you can raise think about it. If you're a billionaire and you own a lot of property, right? Or you own a hedge fund, or you own all these things, then let me ask you, it's in your benefit to not make it easy, because then they got to build the value of the cost in there.
Right.
Because if California wanted to, and I don't think, I'll tell you where I think Republicans do a bad job at this, and they intentionally do a bad job, is like in California, you have Proposition 13. And just to let you know, do you know this?
Is that
so
for the
before
taxes?
1978, if you bought a home, then it doesn't go up 0% in value. And after it goes up 1%. You say, why? So you have all these people, right, that bought commercial property, like malls, hotels.
Oh, wow.
And that doesn't go up. So say you bought a home in like 1922 and you're like the Hilton Hotel, of course. So you can pay like $0 in taxes. You only get taxed on the improvements. And you're like, no way. And It's like when my grandparents died because they bought a home in Hollywood Hills for no money because they were immigrants. They bought a house in 76 or 74. They
Uh-huh.
paid like $22,000. And yeah, so then
That
when my
is
grandparents died,
insane.
yeah, the house is worth, just to let everyone know, the house now is worth $5 million. You
Yeah,
say,
it's
well,
gotta be.
you
Yeah.
know what they pay on taxes right now?
I can't even imagine.
Take a guess.
I don't
About
know.
$800 for the year for a $5 million house. It would
Oh
have
my
been,
God.
it would have actually been $6, but they decided to like my grandparents decided to like put up a fence or something.
Oh my gosh. That is insane.
Yeah, and all these commercial properties. And so when originally, and I forget the year, the only time I think Jerry Brown lost for governor to Arnold Schwarzenegger was he had an idea to let this idea repeal. But you see that.
I can understand why people would be against it, but yeah,
So you see what I mean? They want people's
Right.
low taxes. So they're like, oh yeah, we're for all these people. But really, are you? How come
Right.
taxes never went up before 78? It doesn't seem like
Right.
this is like fair. And the problem is that people can't like contrast this, right? Because they want to keep their values so high,
Mhm.
right? And they'll never sell it. You know, you can have any billionaire's tax you want. When
Right.
all the money's tied up into something, they can never be taxed because you'll never repeal it.
Right.
Right? You'll never repeal any of this. This is the big mistake that California makes. They want to
Yeah, I was
tax
gonna say, how's that
income and they don't want to
yeah.
tax this. And then they come up with ideas of a billionaire's tax, which just makes everyone want to leave. But they
Right.
don't want to tax something. They don't want to repeal, 13. And until they do, they, and I would
That's
say this,
insanity.
it is. It is crazy, but
Right.
they just don't realize how nuts everything is.
Yeah. Like I was reading that in Miami, there's a large surge of companies going to Miami because they're going to Florida for the lack of regulations, and of course there's incentives and stuff like that there. And of course, like you said, the weather. But I mean, like Florida's really getting a huge upswing of residents and businesses. I mean,
And they're actually going to increase DeSantis. They're going to pass increasing the homestead from 50,000 to 250. For people that don't know what that means, and let me explain it for your audience. So the average house in Florida is 374, right?
Okay.
So we'll just make this 375 just to make the math easier for your audience. So you would do 375 minus the 250, and you'd only be liable for like 125. And you're like, see, for most people would pay no taxes or anything. People are like, oh, yeah, well, how about all these places? What people don't realize is, and they have a hard concept is, we don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem, right? And I'll give you an example of this. It's like my HOA community. I live in an HOA, right? My wife owns the house. I'm not on the deed because I'm going to tell you a backstory on the situation. So every HOA, you get a budget, right? And this is the smallest form of budget. So I realized we're overpaying on landscaping 40%, right? The neighboring community, we could have gotten their landscaper and paid 40% less. This is a fact. So what do I do is I get a quote and I present it. And then they basically send me a cease and desist because I'm not on the title of my house. My wife is because I own a business. Anyways, it's a whole crazy. So you have all these spending problems. And this is the thing is that they'll point out the things like, teacher, police. Yeah, sure.
Right.
But the waste is so high. Even at the lowest level of government, they're overspending 40%.
Yeah.
And you're like, no way. Yeah, you don't have to spend more. And by the way, Florida has other revenue. You're like, what? Vacations, hotels. And this is only for primary residents. The Canadians got to pay more. All of these people got to pay more. But for the people, it eliminates 80% 80% of homeowners will not pay any taxes because even though it's 374, it's not really 374. So, well, what do you mean? Yeah, because it's like if you like average in the $100 million homes in Palm Beach, it brings it up to 374. If you look at the medium income home, it's probably 300. Right?
Yeah.
If you backed out Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and just those two.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's nothing.
Big money.
Big money. People don't realize that like Fort Lauderdale, which is the second biggest city, has more people in it by far than the whole state of New Hampshire or Rhode Island.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it has more people. Like Miami has more people than Connecticut.
Yeah.
So you have cities in Florida that have more people living in it.
Yeah. I always find it interesting I'm so sorry.
No, that's all I was saying,
I was going to say, I would just find it interesting that so many people want to live in Miami because it's literally by 2:00 in the afternoon, you're standing like ankle deep in water. So I'm like, how do you keep selling in an area where it's going underwater?
I'll tell you how. Branding. People love branding. They don't think much of it. People pay a premium for big brands.
Yeah.
I mean, it tries so hard. Like, let me ask you this, right? Let's talk about caviar. Caviar now is owned 60% by the Chinese, these Chinese farms, and these sturgeon. And just to let you know, these sturgeon are very thick sturgeon. They can't swim. They would all die. And yet, 60% of the caviar you buy is owned by the Chinese because they built these huge farms in polluted water. And you're like, no way, because remember, you can't buy from the Russians.
Right.
And Iran or whatever. I think there's like one or two countries that so you're like, no way. And this is like the branding. They make it look like it's like from Russia.
Right.
And people are like, oh, it's caviar, so it tastes really good. But what is it really on? What are they selling caviar on now?
Right.
Chicken and hot dogs. Is that really premium when you put it on a hot dog?
Right.
Because I want to make the argument that as soon as you put it on a hot dog, it's not a premium food.
Yeah. Well, my one kid might argue that.
Okay.
Right.
But what I'm trying to say is that branding really, diamonds weren't expensive before branding, right? That was a nothing item. There's so many items out there that were worth nothing.
Yeah.
So people figured out a way to why people would want to pay more. And once people realize, hey, I want to pay more, the reason why people brand is not only to sell units, but to increase profit margin, right?
Sure.
So the more margin that you can squeeze, right, the more money you can make. That's why we have the best branding in the United States, because we have the stock exchange, right?
Yeah.
We have the companies demand it, right? That's, I think, one thing that we've done better than anything else. I'd say, hey, look, one thing California has done well is branding, right?
Well,
Miami,
the administration definitely brands well.
Look, they do a good job of branding, right?
Yeah.
But people,
they're branding DC right now.
I don't, but I'll tell you, I definitely understand, where people are coming from and what they can do,
Yeah. I remember being in Miami, like I said, it was a little bit ago, and I was looking at a piece of property. I was just walking down the street and I saw something for sale, and I'm like, literally, I am standing, slushing around in water, walking down the sidewalk, and people are still willing to pay top dollar. I find it absolutely fascinating. But then you look at the view of the ocean and the palm trees, and you're like, well, it is pretty nice. Maybe it's not so bad after all.
It's funny. Palm trees are not native to Florida.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're not. But see, that it helps with the branding. They're like, hey, let's steal the California thing they got going on.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a little piece of, it's like you're in the Caribbean.
It is, but it's not native. The palm tree is not native to Florida.
Yeah.
The alligator is, but not the palm tree, right? And so
you've to be good at branding if you're going to pull people to live amongst dinosaurs and in swamps, right? You do.
I will say this: the one, there's a lot of great parts of Florida, and I think the hard thing is people don't realize that the landmass of Florida is greater than all of New England.
Is it really?
It is. It's bigger than all, and people have a hard thing because when I think someone from the north thinks of Florida, they would think North Florida, right?
Right.
And not realize Miami's different than Jacksonville, which is different than Fort Lauderdale, different than Tampa, and different than the Florida Keys.
Right.
The Florida Keys is the only tropical part of the United States. Most people would say Hawaii. The Keys, in fact, and the Keys are extremely independent. In fact, Key West is the only part of the United States that seceded from the United States for one day in 1988.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, well, what happened afterwards, the police department got charged with, what's that thing when you charge the mafia? Was it narco or something for running an organization? The whole police department got arrested in Key West.
Interesting. I did
for
not
drug
know that.
Smuggling, yes. So that's like what happened right afterwards, right? Because
that's interesting.
Because they blocked US 1, and US 1 is the largest highway. It goes all the way from Canada all the way down to Key West. Key West is mile marker 0.
Yeah.
And so the Florida police the United States government wanted to block Route 1 so they could intercept the drugs. So Key West rebelled and said, we are not part of the United States. That's why they call it the Conch Republic.
Interesting.
So they have their own flag. Key West and the Florida Keys have their own flag called the Conch Republic.
Interesting.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know this.
I did not know that. No, I'm a history person. I did not know that.
Like 88 is not even so long ago. Like a lot of teams haven't even won championships in 88, you know?
Right, I am totally going to go look this up. I am thoroughly fascinated by that fun fact. I did not know that.
And I'll tell you this from living in the Keys, because I lived in Key Largo. They're independent people. They're the only people that would be they're anti-government, pro-gun, and pro-rights.
Right.
So people can do what they want and they can own guns. Typically, you wouldn't see this, say, in California. There's no Democrat in California that's oh, let me own a gun and be a deputy. That's not possible because you're forced to. The Keys are really cool because you can just, the spirit lies of being truly independent. That Jimmy Buffett vibe is real.
Cheeseburger in Paradise kind of vibe, right?
Yeah. Even though the cheeseburger.
How did you leave that and go to Fort Lauderdale?
Yes. But that song, I think, was invented in the Bahamas or whatever island that he is. But you know what's so funny about Jimmy Buffett? And talk about second careers of someone that wasn't. I mean, he was a failed musician in Nashville, right? Yeah. Complete failure, right? Big failure. He was divorced, and he headed to Key West, right? And he reinvented himself. So he took a big risk. He had nothing to lose. But he was nothing special in Key West. And he kind of became, in a way, and he was hanging around, just so people know this, for all those parrot heads. He was hanging around some bad people, some bad hombres, right? Really? Criminals, right? Okay. And Key West was more rough and tumble by then. And people like to glorify violence in the mob and cool things, right? And pirates, right? But Jimmy Buffett, even though maybe he wasn't a pirate himself, he was still hanging out with them. It was that rapper, was it X69, that got in trouble for hanging around the violent gangs, right? What's the difference between that and Jimmy, right? I mean, maybe Jimmy was better at music, but he was hanging around bad people. And look, he reinvented his style, right? He changed up the way. It was more, the keys are more relaxed, Jimmy Buffett style, Caribbean, infused music.
Little parrot in the background.
And that allowed his style of good songwriting to come out, right? And that there will end, the Jimmy Buffett style, right? Yeah. And so I loved living in the Florida Keys. I did a lot of fishing and traveling.
Yeah.
It's one of my
favorite. Jimmy Buffett transition too.
I would say for anyone that's here that has not been to the Florida Keys, you got to go. And it's besides Key West. See, most people will say, I just want to go to Key West. Key West is like Nashville, right? It's cool for like 2 days or 3 days.
Yeah.
But if you have never been to the Florida Keys, start in Miami, drive all the way down. Key Largo's great.
Yeah, that bridge. Oh, the bridge.
The 6 Mile Bridge. It's like
it's so long. Yes. I'm not a bridge person, so that's how I do it. Yes.
This is how people drive. And I do have a
sick the whole way. Yeah.
I'll tell you a really funny story. I had a friend, and he was kind of like a tough guy. And I'm like, hey, man, are you scared of like the 6 Mile Bridge of heights? He's like, no, definitely not. He's like, I can do this with my eyes closed, right? And he's in front of his wife, and he's telling me this. It's no problem. And so I'm like, dude, great. I'm too scared to do it. This is true.
Right.
So he lived in Marathon, which is right before where the bridge starts, right? The bridge starts in Marathon, and then it goes through, the next whatever the key is. And so we hop in his Tesla, right? I'm like, dude, I'm finally going to go over the bridge in a car that like, it had that in the car. I think it's low
rider, too.
But front seat. Now I was going to be able to have a better view in a Tesla. So he sets the view, like some restaurant that we were going to go to afterwards. And next thing I know, we're on this bridge, and his eyes are closed. He was also scared of heights, just like me.
What?
But he used the navigation of the Tesla to drive over the bridge.
No, that is so much worse. No.
I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die.
Yes, on the bridge. Yes, no.
Bridge. But I was front seat from someone that was closing his eyes the whole time.
No. Oh, no. Do they have companies for people that can't drive the bridge that they'll drive over for you?
No. See, this is the thing with the Keys. Once you're there, you just got to go. There's other parts of like Isla Morada, and the Keys have like more spots of like these sketchy little bridges, right? Mm-hmm. But it can be scary, right? That's why like Key Largo is great if you're not scared of bridges. Isla Morada is whatever, but once you start going to the middle to the lower Keys, you're gonna get some like, it gets really. I can only tell you that it gets. I once was in Key West on vacation, and I was going to meet someone. So I was living in Key Largo, and I was going to meet someone in Key West. Mm-hmm. So I just took the bus down, right? It was just like easier, so I could like work and like whatever, right? It's like a 2-hour drive, and plus I was scared of heights. Let's be real. And so I took the bus there, but the crazy part is that like when I was leaving. Like, I can't even believe she was able to fly out. I thought she was going to be stranded in a hurricane. And I took the Greyhound bus back, and literally, like, I'm surprised we made it back to Key Largo, Florida.
Oh, my God.
The winds going over this bridge were so strong.
That is my nightmare. That like, really is.
You want to see strong winds when a bus can shake your whole house.
No. Oh, no.
They took this Greyhound bus and made it feel like it was like a motorcycle.
Yeah. Oh, I know what there's the Chesapeake Bay Bridge outside of DC. And that's about 6 miles long as well. And it's old and it's really high. I can't go over that one either. If I do, I can't look away. Like it's just focus. I'm locked in. I try not to do it, but they actually have companies where you have people that you can pay to drive you over the bridge because so many people are fearful of it. They have that fear of heights. And once you're locked in, the traffic's really bad. So there's just no turning around. When you're stuck, you're stuck. But they have companies that you can pay somebody to drive you over the bridge.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the Florida Keys Bridge is a big difference. There's a ton of accidents there because one of the biggest, there's one, like most of the Keys is one way. This way, it's just, there's no, for most of the, I'd say 90% of the highway, it's one way either way. And, these Europeans, they cause a lot of accidents because they drive the wrong way.
The wrong way? I thought that would be like the Autobahn or too fast.
All the time.
The wrong way? Oh my God.
I know. It's crazy with the Europeans. They drive the wrong way a lot.
Well, I mean, one of the selling points of Florida is that anything happens in Florida. So, they're like, well, I can do anything.
It is, but people have to, try out the Keys. It's a great spot, I would tell anyone.
Well, you have definitely been a great advertisement to get people to move to Florida. So please tell us about your platform that you have. What is it? You have was it Broker X program? So if people are thinking about buying a home, coming to Florida, how can you help them and explain what is that program?
Yeah, what I would tell everyone is the biggest thing is a lot of loans and programs are very nuanced, right? Mm-hmm. The first thing I do for everyone is I listen to your story.
Right.
This is very important. Mortgages today, everyone just wants to get you down a funnel, okay? Mm-hmm. I try to listen to your, your story because there's 107 different types of programs, especially for down payment assistance, right?
Oh, wow.
Over 107. There's money for everyone, right? The second thing is what I always do is a lot of people that are, moving to Florida or in Florida have variable income. Right? What that means is you get paid hourly, commission, shift differential. A lot of jobs are either medical for nurses or whatever, right? So they're not salary type of jobs, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to really analyze this type of income because a lot of variable, while your base is your base today, your variable component may be averaged over 2 years. Sure. So your 2026 pay stub, every 2026 pay stubs eliminates the pay stub from 2024. Mm-hmm. So people's income typically increases as the year goes along. So a person might say, hey, man, no, I really make $92,000, but their 24 wasn't so good. So as you see, their average may be really like 78,000 or 82,000. And so we really try to analyze it. The third step is we go over a loan estimate. This is where people, this skip is totally skip because when I started mortgages May 7, 2001, you couldn't do things online. So you'd have to go visit people and go over all the numbers. So we make sure that we go over the down payment assistance, cash to close, your monthly payments, every item. Mm-hmm. And this is really important. Then comes the pre-approval. But your pre-approval has to be specific for a loan program. Mm-hmm. And there's so many, over 107 different programs. So I would tell people, if I had to really come up with a name, I'd call it listen and launch. Right?
Right.
Because I really listen and then you launch.
Yeah.
And it's not the reverse, right? The reverse is what people don't get. They want to skip all the stops. So I want to help everyone. I really do.
Okay.
So that's what I would tell you, in terms of that, is really taking it, really getting to know someone. That's the most important thing. And I think that's a mistake that people make is that they may look for one different thing. And a lot of people are trained to think like this. Because we do so many different programs, I'll get the same person to try to apply to 6 of them. Mm-hmm. And, I say, look, we do them all, but we got to start with a good application and understand your situation. The other thing I would tell people is your qualifying income is different than your compliance income. So your qualifying income is you take your variable income and they would average over 2 years. Mm-hmm. Your compliance income, they would say, what are you making right now? Because you can theoretically, have compliance income that would disqualify you from the program, right? In fact, some programs, it's not even about who's on the application. It's household income. So your compliance income would also do them because you have a lot of people where, say, you have the wife will say to me, yeah, what do you make? And I make 92. Okay, well, what does your husband make? No, it's just me on the application. Are you married? Yeah, well, it's a community property state. Okay. So what do you? No, it's just me on the application. No, I understand it's just you on the application.
Okay.
What did your husband? Oh yeah, oh yeah. He makes $493,000. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that people try to? Eventually, it comes out because what happens is for a lot of people is they're starting at the beginning, like because they're first time home buyers and trying to get to the end. As someone has closed over $1 billion of loans. I start at the end and work all the way through so we can get through all the issues.
Right.
Because if you go from the forwards to the back, you're going to get caught. You don't know what you're getting caught for. But let me just tell you, with AI today, all the facts come out. There won't be anything that won't come out. So my goal is to get the story. I represent you. Now, I don't misrepresent the facts, but there's a way that they could be portrayed. As an example would be for certain programs, that you don't have to use the variable component if you qualify on your base part. So say your base was like 94,000, but your commission was 40. You don't have to use the 40 for certain programs. So I'm just trying to collect the facts. If I would just ask that same person, what do you make? They'd say make 140. So that's the reason why I ask so many questions, not because I'm trying to disqualify you. Just so I can do it. It's almost like a good defense attorney will be much more difficult than any prosecutor,
right?
Because he knows at the end all the facts will come out anyways.
All the details.
All the details are going to come out.
Yeah.
All the details.
Just like you, sometimes you know the ugly stuff too.
You're right. Look, any
the
good
financials.
Any good Netflix show, they're always. If you ever leave undecided in a good Netflix show. I can tell you this, the defense attorney would just imagine they had someone that's there to completely portray another side. What I would say is this, the prosecutor always gets in a lot more trouble for withholding evidence than the defense team. Right? Defense team, they have to, they have to kind of go through things. And that's what I do is I try to represent people to the best of what I can, and just like Expedia, I try to get you every great deal.
Right.
I'm not trying to disqualify you from free breakfast in the morning.
Right.
Neither does Expedia. Right. That's what I would tell everyone is that I'm here to listen and launch.
Well, first of all, you should probably trademark that. I think that's a great name. I think that's great. With all the technology out there, sometimes it can give you a little bit too much information, and sometimes that can be overwhelming. So I think that's nice that people can come to you and your company and your team, and you can help weed out some of that noise and kind of focus in and give a personability to it, because this is a really big step for so many people. And I know a lot of friends and family members that are entering home ownership for the first time, and it can be overwhelming. There's a lot of details that sometimes are not included, like closing costs and taxes and stuff like that, and just the number games. You need somebody to really break down the numbers and tell everybody what's out there. And I think you do a really good job doing that. And you just gave a really nice description of what you do and how you can help people out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it.
Well, thank you for your time. And please tell everybody where they can find you.
Yes, you can either text or call me on my cell phone.
Okay.
617-529-9317. 617-529-9317. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Ask a Mortgage Expert.
Okay.
Facebook, Phil Ganz. Very easy.
Okay,
and
great.
I'm always available for a great conversation.
Well, great. Well, you do let the conversation flow. So I appreciate that very much. And you've been a wonderful guest, and I cannot thank you enough for your time. And go Florida. Now I want to go visit Florida. I don't want to take the drive down the bridge, but I definitely feel like I want to go to the Keys right now.
It is great.
It is great. It is great. Well, thank you so much for your time, and congratulations again to you and your beautiful growing family, and have a wonderful day. It looks nice and sunny out there today.
All right. Thank you.
Take care. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Well, that is it for us today. Thank you for our guest, Phil Ganz of Next Wave Mortgage. Go follow Polywine on Instagram at PollyWineTime or at TikTok at Polywine, and go listen to Polywine wherever you get your podcast. Thank you so much. Have a great day. We'll see you soon. Bye.